Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by. So it is time now for the next 2 week update. So after we left Spokane, Washington, we headed to Oregon. On our way to Oregon, we did have two destinations in mind that we wanted to stop at to be our leg breaks and driver switches if needed. Which we stopped in the Mount Hood National Forest area. We stopped at Horsetail Falls, and then we went down the road a bit to the Onondaga Gorge Tunnel. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong, but that was pretty cool. I did walk through we walked through the tunnel. It's not a driving through tunnel. It used to be, but now you can't. So there's a road that goes next to it. And then we hopped in the car, drove down the road a bit to the Multnomah Falls, which is Oregon's tallest waterfall. We didn't have reservations and tickets to get into it, so we could only see it from the parking lot, but it was pretty cool. It was really pretty. There was a lot of people there. They have this really cool bridge thing that you can walk across and get like the mist from the falls, but that's what you need to have tickets and reservations for. So like I said, we didn't have that, so that wasn't something we were able to do for the day, but we did get some really cool pictures of the waterfall from the parking lot. And then we hopped in the car and continued on for our next overnight stay, which was in Grants Pass, Oregon. Grants Pass is a really cute little mountain town. And we only stayed there for the one night. We did a little bit exploring through the town. They have all of these like fiberglass bears that are like, some of them are dressed in cute costumes, some of them are just like big blue or big purple, or like they're themed for different things throughout the town. I can't remember how many of them there are. I think there's like 24 of them, something like that. But it was pretty cute. We went to a cute little local Mexican restaurant for dinner, then went back to the hotel for a good night's sleep. Then in the morning of the 17th, we hopped back in Journey, got on the road again, and went down to the Redwood Forest into California. So through the Redwood Forest, we just drove through, stopped off at a couple of the little trails, walked through the Grove of the Titans, and down through that Grove of the Titans, there's a little Mill Creek. It's a little like stream creek, you know. It was really pretty cool. The first path we walked on, they had a lot of felled trees. So seeing how small we were in comparison to those trunks and the root systems was really, really amazing. Kind of gave us a lot of perspective on things, and made you feel a little small in this big, big world, which we are, you know, but it was definitely kind of humbling to just put that perspective in. While we were there in the parking lot, I saw my first Stellar Jay. They're pretty cute birds. They're not very shy. They're like, he was walking all around me and getting pretty close to me in the parking lot. I got a couple of good pictures, but it was really dark and shadowy in there, so like the colors of him weren't as vibrant as they normally are, but he was really cool because he's like black but dark blue at the same time. They make a really weird noise. Anywho, after we left through that area, we drove on down through the Avenue of Giants on our way out of the Redwood Forest. We did not do the drive-through of the big redwood, those ones that have like the tunnels through them, because my car is too big. You have to have a very specific small type car to be able to do that drive-through. But it was really cool. And I don't know, I mean, I know a lot of you have been through the redwoods. Not everybody that I see or know, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. But anywho, for such big, huge, giant trees, those sequoias, their pine cones are so small. Literally, they're like this big, and they have these tiny seeds inside the pine cones that are what grow the big trees. I was really quite amazed because, like, at home, our pine trees our pine cones are like this big, and then you go other places and they're bigger. So it was just really cool to see that these ginormous sequoia trees have such small pine cones and seeds. I found that really, really kind of remarkable. One of those nice little mysteries of nature. So then after we completed our drive through the Avenue of Giants, we continued our way through the hills and like windy roads of the mountainy areas of California, and spent the next 2 nights in a small town called Ukiah. We really didn't do much but just rest in Ukiah. So we stayed in Ukiah from the 17th until the morning of the 19th. In the morning of the 19th, we hopped in the car again and continued to head down the south coast, or the south of the west coast, which our next destination was going to be San Francisco. So driving through those roads, we saw a lot of pretty mountains, windy roads, and a lot of different types of farms and a lot of vineyards. We did contemplate staying or stopping off at one of the vineyards, but considering that those tours and stuff usually take, a couple of hours, and we didn't want to partake in any wine tastings or anything while we still had so much road to cover. Otherwise, we would have enjoyed that. But we figured, probably wasn't the best idea to have a wine tasting while we had to drive, and we didn't want one of us to be able to partake and not the other. So we just 86 to that and figured next time we're out that way, then we'll do one of those vineyards. And then next thing we know, we saw her, the big, pretty Golden Gate Bridge. You could see her coming off into the distance, and it was really, really cool. We were very fortunate that parking wasn't as hard to access as we expected it to. I guess we got there at just the right time of day where there was quite a few parking spots left. So we got out, stretched our legs, and walked around like the tourists that we are with our cameras. And I did a little video, and we just did our little cute touristy photos and walked around. We went down into the gift shop and everything, and then headed back to the car to head to our hotel, which was about a couple blocks away from Union Square, right in the top of San Francisco. So we were in a really great area to be able to walk accessibly throughout the whole town. We did go down the first night to Union Square and walked around to kind of get a lay of the land and see what was going on, kind of pick up the vibe of everything. We saw all of the buses and trolleys that were going around. We saw Waymos everywhere. That was really interesting. We did consider getting a Waymo while we were there, but we didn't. And then we did take one of the trolley tours. That was pretty fun. Got a little video of that. And we did do one of the double-decker bus tours. That was really fun. There's a video of that I'll post as well. And we walked through Chinatown, Japantown, the financial district. We went down to the piers. We went to the famous Pier 39. We got to see all the seals on their little rafts, just laying around, lounging, barking and fighting with each other and hopping on and off their little floats. They were cute. So that was a lot of fun being in San Francisco. The weather there was nice every day. It did rain a little bit here and there for the couple of days that we were there. I think twice it rained, but it wasn't a long-lasting rain. And the temperatures were a little bit cooler than I thought they were going to be. They were like in the 70s, and it was like a chilly, windy kind of situation. So then we left San Francisco on the morning of the 23rd, and we headed down through Yosemite National Park. That was really kind of exciting. In Yosemite, let's see, what did we see in Yosemite? In Yosemite, we saw the amazing trees and landscapes. Everything was beautiful. We didn't see any animals or anything there. A couple of like squirrels and stuff, but none of the other animals that we were hoping to see. It was a pretty quick drive through. We did get out and do a couple of little the scenic stops. And there I was really surprised because they have a different type of tree, different types of pine trees, that they have really big pine cones. I have some pictures of them. I have one like compared to my foot, and it's the length of my foot. So I was surprised that these trees that are much thinner and not as tall have such big pine cones compared to the sequoia, which are ginormous and have teeny tiny little pine cones. So that was kind of fun. And there was a lot of gift shops throughout Yosemite. There's a lot of towns along through there, and they were all very geared towards like Bigfoot. So that was kind of fun. Then we continued on for our next overnight stay, which we drove through to Nevada. Driving through Nevada, we did stop along the way and find some like really cool Joshua trees. There are Joshua trees everywhere. We went through the Mono Lake area, which was really cool. Mono Lake is a beautiful big lake that has a really high salt content and a really high sulfur content. So there's no actual fish that live in this lake. And due to that alkaline water, the like foliage around all the botanicals and stuff that grow around there are very hardy, kind of scrubby looking shrubs, like a lot of sagebrush and this really hardy lupine that grows there. It wasn't as pretty and lush as I expected it to be around a lake. So that's why I like kind of looked into why, and that's when I found out it was the sulfur and salt content in the water that made it like a very harsh environment for certain things to live and grow. But it was really pretty, really interesting of a landscape. And so we spent a night in Las Vegas. We walked down through the Strip a bit. We stayed at the Treasure Island Casino Hotel. It was a pretty hot busy place. I'm not a casino kind of girl. That vibe is not my thing. Being in the casino, it's just loud. There are people everywhere. People are walking around smoking. There's a lot of drinking and stuff. And that's fine. That's for some people, but it wasn't for me. So when we went down walking through the Strip, it was late at night when we got there. I think it was close to 8 when we finally got to the hotel. So by the time we got out to walk around, it was like 9:30. And we got to see the big fountain show at the Bellagio, which is really fun. That goes off every like 15 to 30 minutes. And there's a whole big themed light show that goes with the water fountain spouts that the water just like spouts out and dances. It's pretty. We walked down past Caesar's Palace and like we went down one side of the Strip and then down the other side. We didn't do the whole Strip. It was very crowded, very busy. A lot of people out there. A lot of the club employees out there handing out their little cards trying to get you to go into their establishments. There was a lot of street vendors. There was a lot of street performers. A lot of the those guys that stand there with those like camera roll things, so like that you put your phone on there and it spins around you while you dance and sing and stuff, or like these little TikTok videos or whatever. So there's quite a few of those. People singing, guys with coolers full of alcohol for sale, and it was okay. And I mean, I'm sure I know there are other parts of Las Vegas that there are to see like outside of the Strip, but we just decided we weren't in for that. So we figured the next morning we would head on out to the next adventure. The next adventure was, I think, the highlight so far of this trip. We decided from that point to head down to South Utah. In the southern Utah area is where they have all the good national parks. That's where Zion is. That's where Bryce is. That's where Red Rock, I believe it's called. It's beautiful. We first day we stayed I think 4 days in Laverkin, Utah, which is in the Zion corridor. So we were like 20 minutes from the entrance to Zion National Park. Zion has my heart for national park so far. After seeing Yosemite and Yellowstone and driving through all the other national forests and stuff that we drove through, I really, really enjoyed Zion. It is so beautiful. The coral and oranges and reds of the rocks and the different layers and the forestry, the river winding through it, the well-maintained paths. It's breathtaking. It's absolutely breathtaking. I really enjoyed it. Really want to go back sometime when we can plan to do the Antelope Canyon with one of the Navajo guides. That sounds just chef's kiss. But that was really nice. We went through there twice. So the first day we got there, we had time, so we went up into the canyon just to kind of get a lay of the land a little bit. We hopped on the shuttle and did one little section. And then a couple days later, we went back. And they have shuttles that run like every 15 minutes and stop at a lot of the different trailheads. So doesn't matter if you're planning on doing a big hike through any of the paths or trails, or if you just want to stop off for photos, the shuttle is great for that. So then after we left Laverkin, we headed down to Panguitch, Utah, which is a small town in the Bryce Canyon area. Panguitch is a really cute little town, very small, very rooted in their history. We stayed at this really cute little motel called the Purple Sage Hotel, which Andy picked it because it was purple and, it was kind of vibey for me. And that was really nice. And on our way through there, we went to the first couple of trail viewpoints in Bryce Canyon, before we went back to the hotel for the night. And then the next day we went and did the rest of the trails and got some really good photos and stuff there. I stopped at a little petting zoo thing to feed some deer. That was really fun. Let's see. That was pretty much it. Bryce Canyon was really cool. We did learn that Bryce Canyon has some of the purest air in the U.S. The air quality there is like far above a lot of other areas in the country. And I think a lot of it has to do with just like the trees and the fact that there's not a lot of pollution from outside buildings and stuff. Because that whole area is very small towns here and there around, and not a lot of like big businesses, factories and stuff like that contribute to air pollution. So the air quality is really good. The whole area was really nice. Like I said, like that end of South Utah has been my favorite so far. The scenery through every leg of that trip, was just beautiful. And then the morning of the 30th, we left Panguitch, and I'll have to tell you where we went next in the next video. So make sure that if you have any questions or comments on any of the places that we have been so far, you comment below. Make sure to like and follow for more. Bye.